Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. How are you? It's great to see you and welcome back. Today we're going to be making a recipe out of a book that I found recently at the thrift store. Recipes and Entertaining Secrets from the Most Extraordinary People in the World by Robin Leach, who is also the host of this show. If you were a child of the 80s, you might remember this show. It was called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and it was hosted by Robin Leach, and he jet set it around the world to show you a little glimpse of the life of a rich and famous person. I was never into it. I always was kind of captivated by his kind of pompous accent, but I was never really interested in seeing the homes of the rich and famous. I was just a kid at the time, so it just didn't interest me. But this was copywritten in 1992. So I associate Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous in the 80s. Apparently it went on into the 90s. But it's interesting to see some of the celebrities and the rich and famous people listed in this book because some of them are familiar. Let me show you. So there's our host, Robin Leach. This was originally purchased, looks like, at the Christmas tree shop for a whopping $2 or $3.99. I paid $2.49 at my Savers, and some of the rich and famous people are listed on the back, including Elizabeth Taylor, Larry Fortensky, Martha Stewart, Bruce Jenner, Ava Gabor. It's interesting to me that Bruce Jenner is listed before Kris Jenner because that's a completely different, but at the time Bruce Jenner was of course known as the former Olympian, decathlete, and Randy Travis, Joan Collins, Elle Macpherson. Let's see, who else? I think there's a couple princes and princesses in here. Oh yes, Prince and Princess Michael of Kent. Because we have to have some crowns. They have quail with port sauce listed as on their menu. Sugarcane pasta. We have Wolfgang Puck and Barbara Lazaroff. Wolfgang, look at that glamour shots photo. Wow. Man, that was back when like we had feathering. Well, that was more like 70s, but you know what I mean. Claude Tattinger, don't know you. Martha, our lovely Martha Stewart. Dame Barbara Cartland. Okay, relaxing at home. Now this is why we're making today's recipe. This one right here. Look, there we have it. The Jenners, Bruce and Kris Jenner. Look at that. Oh, the whole crew. My, have they grown up. Look at all of them. For their menu, it's swordfish steaks, pasta primavera, grilled eggplant, cheese bread, and brownies. Today, though, we're going to be making these right here. I'm going to be making Bruce and Kris Jenner's brownies. So there are a few reasons why I want to make today's recipe. Number one, what do they taste like? Are they delicious? Number two, do they taste luxurious, fancy, or do they just taste ordinary? Which, you know, brownies I feel like are pretty accessible. Everyone, if you are a person that lives in the United States, have lived here for a little while, you've probably come upon a brownie before. And so I'm just curious about that. And then also, the last reason why I want to make this is because it has an intriguing technique. You mix the batter in the food processor, which makes it really simple. You just dump everything in the food processor, essentially, and then pour it into a pan, which is really nice and easy and convenient. If you don't have a food processor, you could just mix this in a bowl, but novel. I've never made brownies with a food processor before. So let's go ahead and get started. Behind me, my oven is preheating at 350 degrees. So the first thing we need to do is 4 1-ounce squares of unsweetened chocolate. In this bowl, I have 2 tablespoons of butter, and to that, I'm going to add 4 ounces of unsweetened chocolate. And she says 4 1-ounce squares. My squares are 1/2 ounces, so I am using 8. Break them up. I'm going to melt this in the microwave on medium power or at 50%. Otherwise, you could burn your chocolate, which you don't want to do. So let's do that. This recipe calls for a cup of chopped walnuts. So I'm going to pulse them in my food processor while the chocolate's doing its thing. All right, so walnuts are prepped. Let me check on our chocolate. I can hear the butter sizzling. So I'm gonna give this a stir It's been in there at half power for about a minute. Butter is definitely melted, but the chocolate isn't. So while we're waiting for the chocolate to melt, let's put the rest of the ingredients into the food processor. So this contains 2 cups of sugar. That's quite a lot. 2 cups of sugar. Next, 4 eggs. There's no pre-mixing or anything. You just dump everything in. How easy. 4. Beautiful eggs. Okay, we need some vanilla. 2 teaspoons. 1 cup of flour. Okay, baking powder. Salt. Okay, and our chocolate. Give our chocolate a stir. Gorgeous. Chocolate is luscious and melted. Now we're just going to blend this together. I've never made a brownie batter in the food processor before. I've made pie crust, but not brownie batter. Cool. Add the melted chocolate. There's not much butter in this recipe. I love a buttery brownie. For me, that's essential. So I'm curious to see how this goes. I've made so many brownie recipes, including Katharine Hepburn's recipe, a 100-hour brownie recipe. Put links down below to any of those. So many, because I adore brownies. I remember having fond memories. I do have fond memories of going to Mrs. Fields in the mall when my mom would go shopping, and she'd get me a double chocolate fudge brownie, and I would nurse that thing, just little nibbles. Loved them. My mom never made brownies. Okay. All right. Chocolate goodness. All right. We have a brownie batter. Next, we add our walnuts. Again, I'm going to scrape down the sides. Ooh, it's thick. Add our walnuts. And 12 ounces of mini chocolate chips. That's an entire package. A lot of chocolate in here, which is great. I love mini chocolate chips. They're so cute. Aren't they adorable? So cute. Entire package. I'm going to add half, and then I'm going to sprinkle some on top. That'll be cute. Well, I don't want them to get chopped up too much in the food processor. I'm just going to pulse this a couple times. Ooh. Food processor's having, like, it's protesting. It's like, nah. All right. That's our batter. So I already prepared a brownie pan, but then reading the directions, it said a 9 by 13 pan, not a 8-inch or 9-inch square pan. So we're going to swap things out a bit. So 2 cups of sugar isn't so much if you're making a big pan of brownies. So hold my breath. And I always like to line my brownie pans with a little bit of parchment to make it easier to take them out. This is a lot of batter for a food processor. Maybe my food processor is too small. Look how full it is. It's just a bit too much for this. All right, so maybe making it in here isn't such a great idea. All right, so I'm gonna just mix this over my pan because there's a hole in the middle and the batter wants to go through the hole. So I'm gonna do this so that if it does, it'll just end up in my pan. So there's a very thick batter, lots of goodies in it. Look how chunky it is. Oh shoot, I can't see what I'm doing. All right. Very chunky batter. And thick. So I thought this was gonna be really convenient because we're just making it in the food processor and we're not having to dirty up a bunch of bowls. It still is very convenient in that sense. But look, I've got batter in the hole of my food processor. I've never had that happen before. And I'm gonna spread this very thick batter out to the corners of the pan. and it's pretty thin. So we're gonna bake this for 20 to 25 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean. And then we're supposed to allow it to cool and serve with vanilla ice cream. Sounds good to me, Chris. So just take the rest of these and sprinkle these over top. Cute. Whoa. Saved a little too much. So there we have it. We're gonna pop these into our preheated oven and I shall see you in about a half an hour and we'll give them a taste. Okay, see you in a little bit. Right, my lovelies, the brownies are complete. Here they are. This whole parchment paper thing was just a disaster. It ended up flopping into my brownies, but so they're not aesthetically perfect, but yeah. Ordinarily, your parchment paper would be a little bit closer to the size of your pan. Not like this. This is a little bit too narrow for the size of this pan. And then it allows you to lift your brownies right out of your pan. But I measured this for a square pan. But anyways, we should still be able to. It broke a little bit, but we'll be all right. So at least it came out. This part broke a little, but here it is. Ta-da! The Jenner Brownie. The reason why I wanted to take it out of the pan is because I want to be able to cut it on my cutting board. You could just cut it in the pan, but that's such a lovely pan. I don't want to scratch it with my knife. So now that it's on a cutting board, that would be much easier to do. Every time I make brownies, I always think, are you an edge person or are you a middle person? I'm an edge person. I love the edge. A little bit chewy, a little bit crispy sometimes, depending on the brownie recipe. This is slicing nicely. The top has a crackly top, which I really like in a brownie. Kind of glossy and a bit flaky. If you want a really clean cut, then you should cut the brownies when they're completely cold or even chilled, and you'll get nice clean cuts. So here is an edge piece. Ooh, looking good. So we see some walnuts in there. Gooey, gooey, fudgy. I reserved some of the chocolate chips and sprinkled them on top. I think that's nice. It's got a nice thin, crackly top. Melted chocolate on the side. Chris suggests serving this with vanilla ice cream, which I think is a good suggestion. I'm gonna put it on the side so I can taste the brownie with and without the ice cream. Oh, how cute. Look how adorable that is. Adorable, adorable. Let's give it a taste. Looks great. Itadakimasu. Very good. Very walnutty and fudgy and very sweet. I would say almost more walnutty than chocolate chippy. Very strong taste of walnut, but a very fudgy brownie. Not particularly chewy. Well, let me try the edge and see if it's chewy, but with the ice cream, just decadent. Vanilla and chocolate go so nicely together. All right, let's try it, the edge. I like the edge. It's a little bit chewy, not crisp, not burnt at all, just a little chewy, but again, a very walnutty brownie. So if you like walnuts in your brownie, you like this recipe, but it's a good brownie recipe. Checks off all of the requirements in my book about what makes a good brownie. Not particularly buttery. It's rich, but not so buttery, but there's definitely butter in there. I can taste it. Good chocolatey, walnutty, fudgy brownie. Thanks, Chris. Boy. In terms of profile, it's a relatively thin brownie, but I'm not missing any sort of decadence at all. Delicious, tasty brownie. Alrighty, my lovelies. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media, like this video, subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Toodaloo, take care, bye! Priorities, right? Gosh, I love chocolate. I love brownies. From ice cream is even better.